GRDC, correct? What do you guys do?
Well, GRDC stands for the Grandmont Rosedale Development Corporation,
Right.
and we're a nonprofit, neighborhood-based organization, and we do a whole range of activities and programs that are intended to preserve and improve the Grandmont Rosedale neighborhoods in Northwest Detroit.
In Detroit, and you grew up in Detroit, correct?
Yes, I grew up in Detroit. I was born and raised here.
East Side.
Yes.
So, preserving Detroit and fixing up Detroit is important to you then, as a life mission, sort of.
Yeah, I've lived here my whole life. As I said, I grew up on the East Side. I've lived here and raised my family in the Grandmont Rosedale neighborhood. And it's important to me that I get to have a job that has a mission to it, like you say, that is making the community where I live a better place, and I get to do that every day, and that's a pretty good job.
Because you hear a lot of people, bashing Detroit, and it's this terrible place to live. Are you don't buy into that? You're trying to offset that stereotype, per se.
Right. I mean, we wouldn't have lived here our whole lives and raised our families here if we thought it was a terrible place to live. That we think, I think, and your mom and I think that this has been a great neighborhood to raise kids in. We've met lots of good friends here. You guys have made a lot of good friends here, and through things like the baseball league and other activities in the neighborhood.
So, how'd you end up? How'd you start? How'd you get into the field working for GRDC and stuff like that?
Well, I am actually an architect by training. I have a degree in architecture, and I'm a licensed architect. I was working as an architect when I first moved to this neighborhood, and shortly thereafter, this organization, which had already started, Grandmont Rosedale Development, was looking for somebody to work for them, to manage some renovation of some homes. And with my background in architecture, it seemed like a natural fit. And I knew some of the people before we moved here. We knew some of the people who were involved in the neighborhood and in GRDC, and they asked me to do it. I thought it was going to be a temporary situation, but it's lasted for over 18 years. So
you didn't plan on this. This wasn't your first career choice. Were you planning to go into architecture?
Well, I was planning to go. I did work as an architect for several years before doing this for Grandmont Rosedale. I always wanted to be an architect. I went to from the time I was a little kid, and knew that's what I wanted to do when I went to college. But at the same time, a lot of my interest in architecture had to do with being interested in cities and neighborhoods, and not just fancy buildings. So to me, this has been a good, it brings together my interest in architecture and buildings with my interest in serving the community.
So you don't regret the sort of little change in career path then?
No, I don't regret it at all. I mean, I think that if you'd asked me in architecture school what I would really like to do, it would have been about working in a community and making, improving cities and making urban neighborhoods better places, and that's what I've ended up being able to do.
Okay, so if you were given the opportunity to become anything you wanted as a career, what would you do?
At this point now?
Yeah.
Well, on the one hand, I'd like to continue what I'm doing. If I were to change careers now, I mean, I think I would be interested, on the one hand, of maybe working in a city government at a higher level than just at a neighborhood level, where you could affect more than one neighborhood, where you could have a bigger impact, I think. And another thing I'd be interested in is potentially being a teacher, an architectural professor or something, teach community development. So I don't know that if I'll work for GRDC the rest of my career, but those are two things I'd be interested in doing.
Didn't know that. Very informative. And you have an awesome son, I understand?
Well, I have two sons.
One less awesome than the other.
Both awesome.
Me being best.
Well, one of the two best.
Alright. It's been a pleasure